Welcome to Beyond the Fence podcast presented by Headbanger Sports with your hosts, Coach RAC, Chris, and Mike, also joined by Jesse K. We're excited to have Joey Urban join us today. Joey was named Big East Freshman of the Year. He was also a freshman All-American at Butler this past season. Joey, thanks for being here. Tell us where you're from. Give us a little background. How old are you?
Hey, thank you for having me out here. I'm Joey Urban. I am 19 years old. I am from Jupiter, Florida, and I'm going to be a sophomore at Butler.
Sweet. We're super excited to have you on. And thank you to the guys, Chris, Mike, and Rack for having me back for another episode. They haven't gotten sick of me yet. Joey, I want to start with you on how did you get involved with HB Sports? Obviously, this is a new show. You're one of the first guests on it. Give us the background on how you ended up in the chair.
So my dad actually works with Kenny Firetag. He's part of you guys, or part of the HB Sports. And my dad told me one day that Kenny and them were trying to have me out for a podcast one day. And I was like, why not? It's my first time ever doing it. So, might as well do it with people I know.
I think so far, by the way, for the record, for those of you who aren't who are interested, and then I'll cut to Chris, we're slowly getting Chris and Mike. Now they're fully acclaimed as influencers and talking and being in on that. Now we're just having some tech issues we're working through. We finally have this set up. Rack cursed us by telling us that at 4:04 we were going to start on time today for a 4 o'clock taping. It is currently 4:35, attempt 3, but we're live. So Chris, I'll cut to you. You guys are getting better at this thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a heck of a run as we've been moving through this. The first 2 episodes were an absolute nightmare, I think, for all of us. So I pity how you're feeling right now. I understand it. And I would just say, just get over it because you're going to be perfectly fine. And thank you for taking the time to come in and meet with us. Obviously, Joey had a heck of a year all the way across the board. I really want to know kind of what the history is and what made you start getting into baseball more so than anything. Like, what was the cause, or did dad say, hey, throw on a glove, we're going to go play a catch in the backyard? And you're like, hey, I love it. Or is it like, hey, I wanted to play because my friends were playing, or what was the story?
So my brother grew up, and my dad grew up playing baseball his whole life, and he got my brother onto it. And when I was a kid, I would follow my brother in his footsteps. I did pretty much everything he did, and I used to go to his games. And so when I was around like 4 to 5 years old, I was like, I wanted to play t-ball. And so I think my brother's truly the one who got me to play baseball.
So with your brother playing baseball, did your brother play travel like you did, or was it more so geared along the lines of, I'm just going to play school sports and little league, or what was your kind of background in that? Because I know, talking to your dad was a huge help for me, by the way, when I moved here with the travel ball scene, because he had been through it with you and your brother. So I kind of know the background myself, but I want the viewers to kind of hear just what your thoughts are on travel baseball and kind of getting into it, and what led you into playing travel baseball.
So my dad, he used to coach my brother's old travel team, and he was really into it. My dad's a freak with baseball, and so he's always running around with us. And so I think watching my brother play like all-stars, like trying to go to like the Little League World Series and all that, like going for it, really pushed me to play more travel. Because when I would go to his travel games as a kid, I would just sit there and watch and just think like, that's where I want to be. And that's what truly, like, my dad is the big helper on the travel ball. Like, my brother was big on travel, and then he played school, like when he got middle school and high school. So, and like when he hit high school, when I used to go to those games, I would be like, dang, that's pretty cool to go to. And that's what really traveled me, like, to be, like, try to keep going on.
So getting into, I guess we kind of jumped ahead of things when we got into the travel ball scene there. What was it like? You just said that your brother kind of got into Little League All-Stars. How far did they go, and what were they doing within that kind of organization? Like, was it a lot of traveling in Little League, or more so just geared towards the travel scene?
For like he was more of a travel person. Little League at first with his team wasn't like super, super big, but the travel, he was more in like the travel league, like travel ball and stuff like that. And I was more like with my team when I was a kid, like we were big on all-stars, like Little League, because we won states 3 years in a row.
Nice.
We got to regionals 3 times, and we were a win away to Little League World Series in Williamsport. So
I don't think a lot of people really understand in Florida how difficult that is, and how difficult the Little League scene is compared to outside of Florida or into Georgia or into the kind of the southern states. Like, we were from Virginia, and Little League was great and wonderful, but I come down here and I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
The scene is completely different. And I'm sure it's the same way out in California. Like I know RAC has talked about in the past with how difficult, the amount of amazing players and how good you have to be to really get committed or to go to a higher level.
No, yeah, totally. It was a big like jump from, I think, travel to Little League. I think seeing like when you have to play rec baseball to be in Little League, and seeing like these Little League teams when we got further into state and regionals, it was a huge
They're
jump.
stacked
Like
full of travel ball players. For the most
no,
part.
yeah, and when we got to regionals, we played Tennessee. We beat them our 11U team or 11U year, and we went back. We won states again, and we versed the same team. We lost to them in the I think it was the semifinals, and they went on to do really well in the Little World Series. But it's just the competition with Little League is insane. I think it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that whole area in Jupiter, Florida, I did not know it existed up until I got signed with the Nats, and they're based in Palm Beach, which is right up the road from Jupiter. But yeah, going down that way, there's a whole bunch of fields, like baseball fields everywhere. Like growing up in California, obviously there was some steep competition. We have Little League regionals like right up the street from my house. But yeah, I always knew that the competition was really good in Florida. I had heard that. But when I went out there, that's when I really started realizing, and I think part of it might be, and you could probably speak to this, but I think part of it is a lot of players, once they're done playing pro ball, I feel like they end up staying in that area. And there's so many pro organizations, the Marlins, the Cardinals, the Astros, the Nationals, like that all have their spring training facilities based there in Jupiter. And I feel like when a lot of players retire, they end up I know Mark Cressy has his like whole facility down there in Jupiter. And I feel like that whole like area is just packed with ex big leaguers and high level players. So did you come across a bunch of like players whose dads maybe played in the big leagues or were professionally, like when you were playing there growing up? Was that a common thing?
Yeah. So I actually got to play with Jackson Holiday. He was on my team growing up. We were like 13, and getting to meet Matt Holiday was, to me, I thought was amazing. Like I thought that was so cool. And I've run into like Yadier Molina's kids. Like they're a little bit younger than us, but like I used to help out like a Little League team when I was old, like around like 16, 17. I would help out Yadier Molina's like younger kids team. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's sick.
One of the things I want to hit on, I think would be useful with both you, Joey, and RAC is the experiences going through the college recruiting process. And if there was differences, obviously there's a time gap between there. There's probably like a 5 or 6 year gap in how it's changed. There's obviously NIL now. I don't know how involved that is on the baseball side at this stage, but maybe RAC, to frame this, can you first talk about for a minute or two your recruiting process? And then Joey, I'd love your take on it as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's changed a ton since I was graduating high school, which is funny because I feel like I'm still so young. But yeah, I talked to a few colleges. They would typically go just watch you play and then invite you out to the college for a visit. That's what I did with UC Riverside. They invited me for a campus visit, and I went on campus. They showed me around the clubhouse, had me meet some of the guys, and I grew up going to their games. I was super excited about it. So that was pretty much it. Then I ended up just going there. That was a really easy process for me.
Was that really all that there was, RAC, or was there more to that experience when you actually got there? Because I've heard stories from numerous different people about kids coming in and players taking them out, players taking them to, different places to have fun and things of that extent. Is that something that you ever got to experience or have heard anybody getting experienced?
I think if I was a more in-demand player out of high school, that might have happened. But I was like, UC Riverside was the only Division I school interested in me out of high school, and I didn't have any offers my junior year or anything like that. So for me, I was kind of a late bloomer, and so I've definitely heard of that kind of stuff happening. But in my case, though, no, that was literally it.
Joey, what about your experience?
I think our experience is a little bit different. Which really hurt me was COVID. COVID really set me back because I was a sophomore in high school when COVID hit, and right around that time was when I was getting ready to starting to talk to bigger D1s. I've had a couple phone calls, and then all of a sudden just a pandemic hits, and there was no contact. When we go to big tournaments, there was no colleges there. They couldn't face to face with you, and it was a really big struggle. And I was just usually all the kids, everyone's like, oh, your junior and senior year kids that what got COVID were screwed. And I was just like, to an extent, like, yes and no, because like the seniors should be already committed by that at that point, because it was already in, I think it was like March or February when COVID hit, and like usually those kids are kind of already committed. And I was just like, I feel like it's gonna be a setback for me, because like usually like a pandemic in the past few years like have been a long time, like over like a year and a half, 2 years, in which COVID was pretty a big deal. And I really do think like with my experience it was a little different, because I was a late bloomer at that point when I was able to start talking to more colleges. And right around about going into junior year summer, I had a couple phone calls, a couple schools, and it was like little bits and pieces. It wasn't anything crazy. And like they would come out watch. Like I had Jacksonville come visit me like a lot, and like stuff like that. But it was nothing like ever crazy. And then actually going into my junior year, I was talking to Santa Fe College up in Gainesville, and I was pretty much all like I was going with them. And then a buddy of mine down south who helped me with recruiting, he was like, hey, I got one more school for you to check out. And I got in contact with Butler. I was playing at Tennessee, like University of Tennessee, for a tournament, and they came out and watched, and they asked me for a campus visit. I came to like one of their fall like World Series. They call it Fall World Series by us. And I went out there, and I was like, I can't pass up on the business experience. Like that's what I wanted to do. I'm studying finance. So, and their business school there is really good. So, and I was like, I can't pass it up.
Joey, the thing that I wanted to get some info on, and then Chris, if there's anything additional that you wanted to hit on there, through that process when you were looking through where you want to go, was the draft something that you considered? Did you talk to scouts? Was that something that crossed your mind before pursuing 100% on the college route?
So obviously, I mean, I would have loved to get drafted out of high school, but I mean, with like my body style, I mean, I'm 5'11", 180, and at that point when I graduated, I was 5'11", 180, and I was just like, I think I like am able, like I think I have like athleticism to be it, but like I think my best choice was go to college, like mature, get in my body better, and I mean that's what I'm looking for though in the next 2 years is the draft coming up, so that's what I'm really hoping for.
So obviously when you were there, you had when Butler recruited you anyway, there was a different coach there, correct? And then the new regime came in, and tell us how that kind of went.
I would talk to the old coaches a lot, one of the assistant coaches, and I got pretty close with them. And so I would always talk to the coach a lot. He'd give me a call, asking me how I'm doing, and like asking about my stats and how I'm feeling. And he one day calls me as I'm rolling into Best Buy on a random day. He called me the day before, asking me how I'm doing. I was like, how are you guys doing? He goes, oh, we're great. Like, I didn't know he was retiring. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call one day, and he goes, hey, I just want to let you know the head coach, he's stepping down from the job. Like, and I was just kind of like, I didn't know what to say. I was kind of like starstruck. I was so confused. And he was like, I'm going to, trying to get the head coaching job. I most likely will get it. And so I was like, oh, sweet. Like I'm going to at least go know a coach. And, so time went on, and there was like 3 other coaches, the coach now, him, and some other coach, I don't know who it was, that were fighting for it. And, I was really stressed. Like I was really considering I was really considering, I was like, I don't know if I should back away from this. And I've had like a bunch of people tell me like what to do, like help me out. And there one person was like, dude, like it's the best choice you can have, was a new coach coming in, because he doesn't know anyone. There's no like buddy.
Yep.
And which I think I made the right choice, was staying with it, which I do believe was the best choice, because there was no buddy. Like when we got in, it was clean slate. Like he was like strict to business. Like we got up there, we had 5 a.m. 2-hour conditioning, and there was no like, oh, how you doing? And then the other person was like, screw off. Like it was strict to business. There was no buddy, which I loved.
I had a similar experience. I ended up having 4 head coaches over the span of 4 years in college. So I just, it's got to be some sort of record. I'm thinking now in hindsight, maybe I was the problem. I don't know. They're just like, we can't stand a coach's guy another year.
Wait, were you at the same school all 4 years?
No. So I transferred 1 year. So yeah, I transferred from UC Riverside to Biola. But then at Biola, I had 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I had 3 head coaches at Biola in 3 years. And so it's really interesting seeing a team dynamic when they don't have a coach that is has been there and has been able to like establish what the program's about. So did you feel like there was a lot of like figuring out, did you feel like the players had to kind of really hold each other accountable within the program, or did you feel like the coach was able to like set the standard right from the start of the year and establish what the program was going to be about? Because at least from a coaching standpoint, I know that's got to be a really tough job to come in as an assistant and then set the tone for what the team's going to be about like right away. Did you feel like the players had to kind of band together to make that happen, or what did you feel like was the dynamic?
So since that, he was a brand new, like no one knew him. I think everyone knew like what to expect. Like he came in and set the tone right away, which I don't want someone to like sugarcoat it and stuff, which he was strict to business. And I think we all kind of like bind it together, like try to help each other through it. But he definitely came in and set the tone. And I think everyone enjoyed the way he did it because I don't think there was any hardship between anyone. So I really do believe he went strict to business with that.
Were any of the guys in your class his guys, or did he recruit anybody, or he got a brand new team pretty much?
So I believe that there was 6 recruits or 6 commits coming in from the old coaches, like me and 5 other buddies. And then I think Beamer, within the time span, I think it was over the summer, he recruited 4 other guys. He got, I think, 1 or 2 transfers, and the rest were just freshmen coming in. And, I mean, it was great. I mean, everyone. I have no bad words to say about him, but like he was thrown, like what positions we were. He saw nothing on me, nothing on any of my buddies, like nothing on the team.
I'm sure he did a lot of work that you didn't see.
No, yeah, that's true, but he didn't. Yeah, I've never talked to him, and we were on we had a Zoom call when the coaches were like when they announced the coach, and he was like, "Oh, I'm really excited." Then we had one-on-one phone calls on like who we are, like about like going into detail about ourselves, and he asked me like what position I am and stuff. So like that was basically what I've seen from what he's done for me.
Can you tell everybody kind of what position you play, and then did you play that position in high school?
So I came into Butler as a infielder, which around probably a month or 2 into fall baseball, I turned into a outfielder, which was the best choice of my life. Amen. I went from throwing a lot of baseballs like during IO and stuff to having to throw maybe 20 throws a day, not counting like warming up, obviously, but it was the best choice. It was just a random one day. He was like, "How about the outfield?" I go, "Honestly, I wanted to come in as an outfielder. I did not want to play college baseball as an infielder." And I played, but in high school, I did play shortstop all 4 years. But actually going in to my freshman year, they changed me into a shortstop, which I was always a catcher outfielder. I was never a shortstop ever. And going into high school, they were like, "We need a shortstop for the next 4 years." And sadly, it was me. I mean, I'll take it, but I mean, sadly, it was me. But I'm happy I'm back in the outfield.
Rack, did you have any experience like that?
Oh, yeah. No, that was my experience exactly, man. I was like mostly outfield growing up. I'd play a little bit of second base. I was never good at the infield, honestly, at any level. I was never very good at the infield. Infield is freaking hard. But in high school, I was a shortstop. And I think that you probably had a similar experience. It's like you're one of the more athletic guys out there. Like you have a good enough arm, you can make it work. Like you can play shortstop at high school and make it work. But when I got to college, it was like they were like, "All right, well, I don't know if you can be a shortstop here." And our shortstop at the time was amazing, Colby Schultz. I'll never forget. He was a fantastic infielder. Ended up being a free agent sign, and they tried me at second base. That was a little better, but I still wasn't great. And I still somehow managed to float around the infield my entire college career. But man, if I could do it all over again, my freshman year, I definitely should have been an outfielder, like without a doubt. And also, I feel like it takes a little pressure off of your like offensive game. Like infield is a very stressful place to be, especially at college. Like they're hitting the ball so hard. You have no margin for error. Like you literally have to field the ball perfectly, make a perfect throw. So much more stressful being on the infield as an offensive player than it is on the outfield. Did you experience the same thing?
Oh yeah, totally. The one thing I hated about in high school was say I made an error in the first inning, that just sets the tone for the game. And when I got moved to the outfield, I was just sitting out there and I was just like, all I have to worry about is really getting on base, because I mean,
Don't drop a ball.
That's truly it. Like don't drop a ball. Like I don't have to worry about rolling 2 bump plays or anything like that. So I think it really took a big pressure off my shoulders, like not having to worry about 2 things at once. Mainly it was just technically hitting, which is, I would say, my strong suit. But yeah, it was way better feeling like having to go from the infield to the outfield with no pressure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I got a question about how you mentally felt going into your freshman year, because you're, at least for me, okay, when I went into my freshman year, I was built very similarly to you. I was maybe 6'1". I was honestly like 165 pounds going into my freshman year, so I was pretty thin. I was able to put on 20 pounds, whatever. But by going into my freshman year, though, I was like a little bit smaller, frame wise, and I remember joining a team of like very big dudes. Like they had some juniors and seniors that were just like very big guys. And I remember thinking like, man, like I feel like a boy around a bunch of men here, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to compete with this. And so for me, like it was really hard for me to be confident going into my freshman year, and I really didn't play well the entire year. So where was your head at going into college? And did you feel like you went in confident knowing you were going to perform, or was that something that you kind of just developed that confidence over the course of the year?
I do believe that, like, I think going in there, I was definitely a little nervous. Like, my nerves were kind of shot. Like, our first practice we had, I was in the infield, obviously, and we had a new transfer coming in. Everyone was returning from the infield, and I was just like, and I told myself, like, I really don't want to, like, I don't want to sit. Like, I'm definitely going to fight for a spot, and I do think the nerves were pretty shot, but we had a good bond with the team. So I think after like about a week or two, I think like everyone would hang out. Like I was always at the baseball house, so I think my nerves like kind of calmed down after like a couple guys like were just taking me over. Like our catcher Garrett Gray, he really took over for me. He was a big help with that stuff. But yeah, the nerves were pretty shot.
Is there like a defining moment on the field that like you were like, oh man, I can do this. Like this isn't a big deal.
Right as I got sent to the outfield. That's every answer is going to be right when I got sent to the outfield. Like I got put right into the fire. I was like we do like with scrimmages in the fall. We did like might sound bad. But it was kind of like what the coach thought like the starting team was versus like the other kid, like the other like second team kids. And the first game or the first scrimmage we had, I was out in the left field, and I was just like, oh, I definitely can do this. Like I think like if I just keep going, like yeah, I'm the freshman. Everyone kind of looks down to me. Like no one's really gonna ever listen to me if I tell them what to do or like. So I kind of stayed quiet, but I think that right as that first scrimmage came, I was like, that's definitely when I was like, I can definitely start and keep going with this all year.
Can you bring us into the experience of being a college athlete, especially in a sport where you're playing such an enormous amount of games a season, and you're a freshman in college, trying to balance a social life, having friends, going out, going to class, and traveling almost every day for the season? What was that experience like in that transition?
So like we had, I don't know, like I think we only had like 12 home games during the year. So I think transferring from a lot of home games from in high school, like I didn't travel anything farther than 45 minutes down south, like that's it. To
have to in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Anywhere around here. But traveling, we had, I think like I would maybe say like 4 midweek games. So every week or midweek we'd be traveling 3 hours. I'd be missing on a Tuesday or Wednesday class. We'd leave on a Thursday for like wherever we were traveling for, and get back on Sunday night at like 1 a.m. So like I think the traveling with the homework was a huge difference between like what I was used to, and I think that balancing out like obviously a social life, like hang with friends, like school, sports, and honestly the eating habits definitely changed a lot.
When you say the eating habits changed, what is that? Because you were just going to the cafeteria, or you were ordering food, or eating on the road, or what was the thought there?
So I never ate in my dining hall. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I despise the dining hall.
That's what we heard.
I had we call it swipes, meal swipes, and I got 120 for the year, or for the spring semester. I didn't go one time. I would borrow Buddy's truck or Buddy's car because my truck was off campus. It wasn't even anywhere near. So I would borrow his car. I would drive to Chipotle probably 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and it was just everything was like that. So like, and like in my dorm, we had like a small dining hall that was kind of like a Chipotle. So I'd eat that breakfast, lunch, dinner. Like whenever I didn't want to go to Chipotle, like, that was what I ate. I ate a burrito or a bowl every single day, like nonstop. And I think having like during the fall, I was definitely had a better eating habits. Like I was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner because we'd be up at 5 a.m. and I wouldn't go back to bed for 8 o'clock class because we'd have 2 hour conditioning, or I'd get home at 6:30. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go back to bed for 30 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
I will have a nap before practice, but like during the spring, I didn't eat breakfast because I would get up. I would be so dead tired. I'd get up 5 minutes before class because my class was right outside my dorm. I would get up at 7:55 for an 8 o'clock class. I'd get home, eat lunch, go straight to practice, and then dinner. And it was a light dinner because my nerves. I was hungry, but like it was a light lunch and just a heavy dinner. Like I had like maybe 2 meals a day. So I lost a lot of weight in the spring.
Yeah. Everyone I know seems to lose it. Like you can gain a little bit in the fall and then you kind of lose it all in the spring for sure. I have a question regarding, you mentioned traveling all the time. And I know when you're doing that during the spring, you have a lot of classes that still have their demands that you got to keep up with homework on the road. You sometimes have to have tests proctored. Did you ever have to take a test like while on a road trip? And if so, what was that experience like?
Thankfully, no, I never had to take a test on a road trip, but I had a lot of homework to do that I got a couple of days extended, but like it would be due on Monday when it would be due on a Friday. So like I would still have to do it like on the planes. Like I wrote like a 1,500 word essay on the plane. Like it was a struggle, but no, thankfully I had no test proctored on.
Did you pass all your classes?
Not one. I failed my math class pretty badly too.
So are you retaking that class now, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so I just finished with it. I took it the first part of summer. It was the first, I think it was a 6 week class. And I ended the class with, I think it was a 42. And then I went into the summer and I passed with an 85.
That's the nice thing about summer classes. Like all of the classes that I didn't want to take, just took at a community college, 6 weeks in and out. And it doesn't matter what you get. It's just pass fail that goes on your transcript and you move on. Because I also raised my hand. I failed the class freshman year of college too. And it worked out. So like we're all good here.
Yep. So I have a story that I think is very relevant and I'm dying to tell it. So I asked the question whether or not you had to have a test proctored on the road because I had an experience one time also with a math class. And I'm not a math guy. I've never been even remotely good at math. Being homeschooled, I tried to learn that on my own and it just really didn't work out. So I go to UC Riverside and I tried to take this test to see if I even qualified for their like base level math class, which I didn't. So I had to take like this class that didn't even count as a real class. And I had to pass that to get into a real math class. And so that was the class that I was taking. It was a 7-week class, Math for Idiots, and I was taking it, and we had to take our final, and it was scheduled while we were on the road playing our first road series, and we were playing against University of Washington, and I made the travel roster, which I was pumped about, and we go out there, and before I get to the good part, this is also good and really bad at the same time. But we get out there, we play our first game, and it's 14 degrees out. And because we're playing in, it's like, at UW in February, which I don't know who scheduled that. But that first game was the worst offensive performance I've ever witnessed. UC Riverside got perfect gamed by a pitcher named Joe Demers in 84 pitches. It was an 84 pitch perfect game. I contributed with my signature pop up to second base in the 7th inning pinch hitting. That was just a little side note. So we had this game, we get perfect game, whatever. The road trip was cool though. I was happy to just make the travel roster, and even happy to be a part of that perfect game because like, well, at least I'll be in the history books for something. We fly back. Okay. And the flight was right after our game on Sunday. So it was like at 7 p.m. that our game was starting to wrap up. I think we got on the plane at like 9:30 p.m. Okay. Maybe even a little later. Maybe we got to the airport at 9:30. All I remember is it was an overnight flight, and that's when we had to take our test. We had to take our math final overnight on the flight home. And at the time, we thought, so me and one other kid, actually the coach's son, Cole Percival, he's still pitching actually in like the Dodgers organization, I think. Or no, now Angels. Anyways, Cole and I had to take this final for math, and just so that we can pass and go and take a real math class. And whoever made this class was not very nice. We had to get a 78.5 on the final or higher to pass the class. I had like a 90 something in the class because I was doing all the homework. But then on the final, we had to get at least a 78.5. We take the final on the flight home, and I thought our trainer would be chill with it, like let us, go take our test in our own seats. But our trainer goes and sits right between us and is like, all right, you two take the test, and I'll do not try anything. Do not look at each other's pages, nothing. Like, otherwise you automatically fail. I'll tell them. We were like, wow, okay. Thanks for that, trainer, who will go unnamed.
You would think that that's a complete opposite, especially being in college. So, like, your trainers are going to look out for you, your assistant coaches are going to look out for you, but I guess it's just not out there.
You would think they'd be chill, at the very least, cut us some slack, given that we're like flying, like taking the test at 3 a.m. Needless to say, my buddy Cole and I both failed that test. Intermediate algebra, I think it was called. We both failed it, and luckily it didn't go on my transcripts because it wasn't even a real class. But I never ended up taking math in college. I kept delaying it, and then I ended up getting signed and not graduating. So
you'd be shocked how much, like, there's so many occurrences with college professors where, like, there's such a clear basic sense of, like, just be a decent human being and don't ruin my life. And it's like, failed a class in college, got an A on the midterm, A on the final, but I missed too many classes, so got an F. For the thing when you guys chirped me for my Dr. Phil thing, the only reason that wasn't in person, professor was like, you can't miss a test. You can't fly out. We're not going to let you fly out. You have to do it from campus. I'm like, dude, stop being a hard out. It's not that deep.
All right, Chris. So on RAC's next contract, just make sure it's a lot of math questions. We'll get over on him that way.
He has to solve an algebra problem for it to actually convert into cash.
Yeah, don't ask me anything math. I'll give you nothing.
Joey, speaking of dollars and money and that entire aspect, what does the NIL scene look like, if any, at the collegiate baseball level, and how does that impact guys transferring or being in a portal or getting recruited from what you've noticed?
I think it's great. I think promoting people like that, I think is cool. And going to like Paul Skeens, like there's like a rumor going around that he was paid like $250,000 to get like LSU and stuff. Which
Didn't you hit against him?
I did, yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh God. So first pitch, it was like 102. Down the middle, didn't swing. I thought it was a curveball. I looked at the screen and it said 102, and I was like, "Oh, nice." There's a lot of tail, and a lot of movement with his. And next pitch, I grounded out on a 101. I grounded out to shortstop, and the shortstop made a bad throw. But of course, the first baseman jumps up, tags me. But I don't even know how I turned around 101. I kind of just closed my eyes and swing. But I'm not gonna lie, it was a decently hard hit ball, but it was unbelievable. Next at bat, he threw me 3 straight curveballs, and I whiffed 3 straight times in a row. So it was a big learning experience with him. I think that he will be up at he'll be in the majors by the end of this year or right at the beginning of next year. But it was unbelievable. The weekend before I saw 98, I got 2 base hits off of it, and I was like, oh, sweet. 101, what's the difference? Oh, dude.
Big difference when it's tailing, right?
Oh my gosh, 3 miles per hour with tail, like 18 inches of a fastball tail. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we had this conversation on the last podcast. If you could find a guy that throws 100, doesn't matter if he throws strikes, you take him.
So did he end up getting paid? I mean, do you think he's worth $250,000
to go to LSU? Oh my gosh, yeah. He's worth 10 times that. Oh my god, I want to know what he got for his signing bonus and all that, like for his contract. He's worth a lot of money, because if I was the owner of the Pirates, I think I would do it too. A lot of money.
And within your experience on guys on the team, what's the general aspect you've seen from kids coming in on a recruiting standpoint on, are guys sticking out in one program, or people hitting the portal? What's the ecosystem of college baseball looking like?
So like a kid in my conference, he won a conference near me. I think it was the MAC, I believe. He won MAC Player of the Year and transferred right away. Like, he wants out of there. He wants the big school right away. And he ended up going to Cincinnati, which I believe they're going to – are they going with UCF to Big Ten or whatever it is? But he just like my buddy's best friends with him. He's like, he just wants that big atmosphere. And I think the transfer portal is crazy right now. I think having all those kids in there, it's nuts. It's hard to get looked at unless you have great stats.
Especially high schoolers coming out.
No, yeah, I think like going to LSU, like imagine having that biggest recruiting class of LSU's like entire life. Like it's just, I feel like coming in as a freshman. Yeah, like coming in as a freshman to LSU, I think I would, like an incoming freshman, I'd be like worried. I'd be like, dang, like that's kind of like a slap in the face, I think.
Chris, how do you guys approach from an HB perspective, and Chris and Mike, both of you, like there's this rise of new level college players that are going through the ranks. There's now NIL opening up. How does HB look at it from an opportunity to bring a bunch of young guys like Joey and his sort of class in and get them involved from an early stage with you guys?
Joey, it sounds to me like Jesse's trying to get you an NIL deal while you're on camera right now.
Dude, I'm trying to make you money.
No, we actually don't have anybody on an NIL deal right now. We have heard of a lot of different there's a couple different bigger vendors that are working on certain players, and I think that you're going to start seeing more manufacturers go that direction than you are distributors. We do have some very good relationships with certain individual players around the area just because they've been a part of the HB family since they were kids for the most part. But there isn't anything signed. There isn't anything like that. It's more of a, we want to take care of you behind the scenes more than, go out and blow us up. But at the same time, it's in the future. I mean, I think that's where the influencer market is going to go. I think a lot of college guys, these college guys now, they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers and, even millions, some of them. And that's a lot of money for guys like us who are out there looking for people, especially at the baseball level. Like most people that follow you guys, they're young kids, right? They're young kids or parents that are out there that, follow baseball. They play baseball. They're going to play baseball for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And then you have the same thing on the fast pitch side, and a lot of these players that are getting paid, they deserve it, I think, in my personal opinion. I mean, RAC, when you were in college, NIL wasn't a thing, correct?
Yeah, it was not at all.
How many times did you hear about it behind the scenes?
I don't know. Again, to be honest, I feel like in baseball, it's less of a thing. I think in football, I feel like that stuff's got to happen all the time. At least for me, like I'm going to Butler University, Division II school. We get 25 students out there watching our games. Like it wasn't like we really could generate anything for the school, but I could see, although places like LSU, like they're actually making money with their baseball program.
Yeah, I think the NIL just matters on majority of the school and the sport. Like I think NIL was honestly created for football. It's just, football pretty much is any college's main revenue. So I feel like if NIL was created for a reason, it was for football. And then all other sports just benefit from it.
I think there's space for baseball to benefit from it as well, though. Like let's say I had the platform that I have now when I was playing in college. Like
you'd be making bank, RAC.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Probably be making more than you are now.
Probably, honestly, yeah.
That's not a shot by any means. That's an honest statement. Like the following that you have, when you get into that college level and you got manufacturers out there, you have just Nike. These big companies that can afford hundreds, $200,000, $300,000 to bring a college kid on just to wear their cleats.
What's your social media look like? What's the following like now, freshman year?
I'm only at like 1,600 on Instagram. I don't use Twitter much, so Twitter's nothing crazy.
Do you have TikTok?
Sadly, yes.
Do you ever post to it or no?
Oh no, I don't. I don't. If I did like what you do, I think that'd be cool. But nah, I couldn't see myself dancing on TikTok and stuff like that.
RAC, are you going to start dancing for us?
Oh, yeah. That's my next strategy. Once the views get low, I'm just going to start doing TikTok dances, shirtless probably. I know that'll work.
What made you want to do like social media stuff like what you're doing right now?
Yeah, good question, man. It honestly got thrown on me more than anything because when I got signed by the Nats, I posted a video of my dad's reaction to me getting signed, and it just went ultra mega viral and was on every news source, and I got 150K on TikTok overnight. So when that all happened and then I got released a year later, it was like, okay, well, I have like a couple 100,000 followers I'm sitting on. They all follow me for baseball. I feel like I can make some coaching videos, and I already had a camera. And so it just kind of worked out. So I started doing that last summer, decided to post every day for 3 months, see where it would go. And it started gaining traction. And I was like, well, shoot, I love this. This is fun. So, and I still do. It's so much fun. Like I absolutely love my job. So yeah, I just kind of got lucky with already having the following, because I think so many people are scared to start because they're like, it's going to be cringy when I only have a few hundred followers and I'm trying to like make these videos, you know?
One of the things too that I think people don't appreciate is the amount of time and strategy that goes into this content stuff. Like, I know when I started seeing this stuff, I was like, oh, like RAC's just picking up a bat and like doing it. Like, I don't know, he's doing, but then you realize the science, literally the science that goes into it. RAC and I were on a call with a couple of baseball content creators earlier this week. The dissection of content that goes well. Like RAC, I was watching one of your videos today, and most people wouldn't notice when RAC is looking to the side and then talks to the camera and starts with something. That is directly from seeing another type of scientific thing that goes well. Is that correct, RAC? Like, there is a
100%.
science to the process.
Oh yeah, no, I'm trying stuff out on every single post. There's like a lot of work that goes into everything because people's attention spans are like very short.
And that's why I think TikTok's good, because it's quick, short videos too.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's some video of Joey out there hitting, what'd you hit, 420 in high school, your senior year?
I think it was like 420 or somewhere.
How'd you do your freshman year? Tell everybody kind of your stats. What led you into the freshman player of the year?
Going into freshman year, I knew like a goal of mine was to become freshman of the year, and I was never the type of kid to go out and go swing constantly, like every day, all day. And I just think, like, after I got that first start of the first weekend, I was like, I really do think I have a chance to like keep my batting average up, like keep playing. And I just think coming out of high school, like I knew I was hitting like 420 with like 3 bombs, which is nothing crazy, but I just wanted to keep up with like the stats. Like, I know everyone's like, you shouldn't stare at your stats, but I'm the type of guy that does that, which is kind of bad. But
No, me too.
I remember my last at bat of the year. I was going into the game. I was batting 298, and I was 1 for 4 in the day. And I went up to my coach. I go, I need a hit. Like, I need a hit. You know, it would have been 300 exactly if I went 2 for 5. But no, I struck out because it was all in my head. And I screwed myself. It was all in my head. I was like, I just need a base hit, and I struck out on 3 curveballs, 3 pitches down the middle. Didn't take the swing. Didn't swing once. So it was all mind boggled. But no, I think coming in out of high school with good stats, I think confidence. Yeah, I think that's what it was. There it is. Like, I think it was the confidence that I had. Like, I knew I was like coming out of South Florida with. I mean, I was talking to my roommate, and he's like, "Dude, I didn't see above 85 all year." And 100%. I mean, I saw FSU kid. I saw a Vandy kid my freshman year of high school. Like, I think growing up around in South Florida, like, you're seeing I saw 90 probably once a week. Even when we had like 2 games, like 2-game week, I saw 90 at least once, like every week. So I think that's what really helped me out.
You know, it's kind of crazy. So like I moved here from Virginia, and we actually came here for baseball. And when I was moving down here, I talked to your dad in regard to kind of going through the travel ball scene, what that looked like down here compared to Virginia, and kind of what teams to expect to try and get my kid on, right? So we could play at a competitive level. We weren't going to play rec league. We weren't going to play any of that. And when we moved down here and we played JV, so when we were in Virginia, he was pretty much set to be pretty much the starter on varsity as a freshman in the outfield somewhere. And then we came down here and he's sitting the bench on JV. And it's for him, that was a mind fuck for the most part, right? That was, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I've never sat before in my life. So I told him, you know, that'll either make you or break you. And seeing South Florida down here and seeing baseball around here, JV teams down here would absolutely destroy varsity teams where we were. Really? And now that's not every school, don't get me wrong. Now, RAC, what about you out there in Cali? The same kind of thing? Like, you guys, when you get outside of California, you see a lot less competition compared to what you've seen in Southern California?
Yeah, it's definitely the case. You'll see guys from other states who are just dominant there, and then they come to California and they're like, oh, we're just another guy. Yeah, you definitely see that.
It's the dog, right? Like, everybody tells them, you know, and when we came down here, the one thing that really did was push my son to kind of work harder. So we found a good hitting coach, and his name's Ryan Ellis. He's a hitting instructor for the Mets. Fantastic coach. If anybody's out there listening, needs a good hitting instructor, I 100% push him towards him. But that him and Scott Proctor, you know Scott Proctor?
Yeah, I know the name.
So Scott Proctor was a pitcher for the Yankees. Ryan, I can't remember his last name. there's 4 coaches on this one team. Every one of them has played in the pros. We're hitting instructors in the pros, pitched in the pros, played infield in the pros, or caught in the pros. So my son is on a team right now with the best coaching that you could possibly imagine, in my personal opinion, has completely changed everything around him. And kids that come to Florida and they go to these baseball meccas, they get coaching like that 24/7. And the kids that are in, like, I was from upstate New York. I didn't play baseball until maybe May or June, and we played for like 2 months. And then you come down here and there's guys playing all year round. So
I think playing year round, because it doesn't get colder than like 55 degrees here.
for sure.
And I think the benefit of playing down south is definitely playing year round. I think that is a huge difference. Like, my roommate's obviously from up north. He's from Wisconsin, and he goes, dude, he's like, all it does is snow. Like, during the winter, it would snow a lot, and he goes, dude, like, we wouldn't play. Like, their high school season doesn't start until like April. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm almost done.
Yeah, that's the second. You're going into your second season, right?
Yeah, and they're actually playing into the summer. I was like, what about like your summer team? Like, if I played high school and then like my Florida Burn, like my travel team, I was just like, I couldn't do that.
I've never been able to do it.
No way. And I was like, at that point, like, if your high school coach is not good at recruiting, like, I feel like you're kind of screwed at that point.
Joey, what would your advice be for freshman or sophomore in high school currently that wants to go play college ball? What's the top 3 things they need to do to go get eyeballs? And then RAC, I want to kick that same question to you before we wrap.
This might venture off a little bit, but I think staying athletic, being a multi-sport athlete, I think college coaches really do look at that a lot. Like, when I was right before COVID hit, like, I was talking to a couple of schools and they're like, we love that you're a football player and a baseball player. Like, keeps you active, doesn't keep your mind just on baseball. Like, in the fall when I played football, I took off baseball for, I think it was like almost the whole season. And I was like, my focus is on football. I think being a multi-sport athlete in coaches' eyes, I think is a big deal. Like, they really took that serious. And then by the time like spring rolled around, I think putting the dedication in, and honestly, marketing yourself is pretty well. Like, I think marketing yourself is a good thing to do.
RAC, I want to start with what Joey ended with, the marketing. I think that's obviously such a huge thing. It's something you talk about. Can you incorporate that in, and then just talk about the other parts that you think are key for those kids in high school right now trying to pursue D1, D2, D3 ball?
100%. Okay, I'll agree with Joey on the first one, well, on all of them, but especially when he first mentioned, being a multi-sport athlete. Like, seriously, baseball is so easy to get into your head. It's so mental. And the more you can detach yourself a little bit from baseball and play other sports and keep your athleticism and master other movements, the more you can do that, I think the better you're setting yourself up for college ball. And then beyond that, I would say also, number 2, I would recommend having a good coach, like hiring somebody who knows what they're doing, who has played at the highest levels and really understands the swing, really understands pitching mechanics.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Did you have somebody who coached you specifically, or?
Yeah. On my Florida Burn team, my travel team, Mark Guthrie, he pitched in the major leagues for a very long time. I think he won the World Series with the Twins. So, and I give a lot of props to with my college coaches, or getting interested with college coaches. I give him big props on that. He was good with marketing myself. Like, he had phone calls for me lined up a lot. Like, he was great.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what you'll find. Like, people who have played at the highest levels, they have connections everywhere, whether it's in colleges or whether it's pro ball. Get yourself a good coach. And a lot of times they'll have good connections, especially if they've played at the highest level. So that's number 2. And then number 3, this is something new and not something that I didn't really do when I played, but I think is hugely valuable, is what you said, marketing yourself. Like, social media is free marketing, I feel like, for people. And so you don't even necessarily become like a baseball influencer and try to get picked up that way or anything like that. But I think if you have a proper recruiting video that's posted to your profile, you have it pinned, you have your class, your age, your height, your weight, your position, and all that stuff in your bio, and then you take the time to maybe tag some college coaches on Twitter and your recruiting video and sending DMs and emails, like, you can absolutely get yourself on the radar of a lot of colleges just by positioning yourself using social media and email. And if I was in college again, I felt like or in high school again, I felt like I had good enough numbers and video to point to that I just didn't even utilize. And I think I probably could have potentially gotten looks from a lot more schools had I utilized some of that stuff. So, especially for kids that are maybe don't find themselves in a Florida or California type scene, I think that's even more important because you're not regularly getting in front of a bunch of eyes like you would in those places. So, yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity there for high school players to market themselves using social media.
Also, I mean, it's important to get your friends and your family in that marketing too. I mean, when I came down here in Virginia there was nothing. Like, you saw kids that were good, but nobody advertised them. You come down here and you got your mother, your brother, friends of the family, cousins down the road. You go online, they're everywhere. And I think that helps. I mean, it gets you out there beyond your state. Obviously, when you're in Florida, you don't need to get out beyond your state. Everybody knows who you are. But if you're playing somewhere where you're only playing 3 or 4 months of the year, that helps a ton.
There's a lot of different organizations that are out there now, and I'm sure that you kind of went through them because you're young enough. The PGs and the Dynamics and the PBR events and all the different showcase events, the Prospect Wires. There's so many different organizations out there now that are doing such a good job of allowing these kids to come and play and then marketing them for you. It's not, and then you can share their videos, and they have all the followers from all the college coaches in the area, so they can bring you in. So you may not get recruited outside of the area in these tournaments and in these smaller markets, I'd say, but you're at least getting eyes on you. And when I came through high school, there was nothing like that. Overall, it's a whole different ballgame now. I have a lot of friends that, I coached youth baseball. I coached, some travel baseball, and I backed away when my son was 12 and let him get with an organization that could get him to the next level and bring him to a better form of baseball that I didn't know because I didn't get to play at that level. And seeing all these kids along the way, you create relationships with them and their families and their parents. And you see, as you're following them on social media, the differences in each person and how they approach the recruiting process, whether it be on Twitter and tagging the local Virginia tournaments or the college that they want to go to. But now you see a lot more of college showcases, and colleges are bringing these kids in and they're putting them on their field and they're putting eyes on them. And if you want to go to that specific college, you go to that showcase. You go to that showcase, you put yourself out there, and you give yourself a chance to actually get recruited by that college. Because 90% of the time, they have enough people coming to them that they don't have to go anywhere. Unless you're an absolute stud, you're going to have to do some work for yourself.
5-10 years out, if you can, I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow morning, but if you can think from a 5 to 10 year perspective, where is Joey? What would be a good outcome for you in life or in baseball, or if those come together both? Like, if we check back in a year or 5 years, what's the ideal goal from there?
So I believe, I think my goal is totally definitely get drafted, whether my junior or senior year, whichever one. But if, say, baseball doesn't kick in, sometimes reality's got to take over. That's why I'm really going to Butler for the business degree. But if without baseball, I think I'm going to see myself somewhere I'm studying finance. So I want to do something with finance and then possibly own my own business. And within the next, after I do business for a little bit, I think I do want to pursue my own business. I was talking to my dad not long ago at his office, and I was like, I just couldn't do this all day. He gets in right when the market opens and he leaves an hour after the market closes. And I'm just like, I don't know if I could sit there all day. I hate talking on the phone. I don't like talking to random people. He's going to meet people in Colorado for the first time, as his client that he's had for years. To me, that's just crazy. And I have no idea what I want to do with kind of business, but I think later on in life, that's what I want to do. I want to be my own boss.
I think this has been a super insightful episode, tech problems and all. We're working through this stuff, but I think we actually have a good outcome from this one. But RAC, any closing remarks before we wrap this one?
Yeah, well, just Joey, appreciate you having you on. And I think if you're out there, if some kid's out there listening to this and wants to potentially play in college or something like that, I think there's a couple takeaways that Joey's shared that one, as you go in your freshman year, confidence is really important. And if you can position yourself where, if you can maintain a confident mindset through your freshman year, it'll serve you well, as it really has served him well being freshman of the year. And beyond that too, I think his vision looking forward beyond baseball as well, looking at business and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of valuable takeaways. So appreciate you having you on here, Joey.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Earlier in the conversation, you said you wanted to be freshman player of the year. What are the goals for the sophomore year?
That's a good one. Me and my dad were talking the other day, and he was like, well, you need to come into the office one day and we need to like set more goals like you did last year. And I mean, definitely beat all my stats like last year. Like I definitely want to be over 350. That's my goal. Over 350, 10 bombs, a lot more RBIs, more than I had. But Golden Spikes is pretty far out of the question, but I mean, you never know. Like, I mean, I got to have a breakout year. That'd be cool, but I mean, I think sticking with like first team, Big East, or like All-American again, I think would be cool.
But like RAC said, you got to have the confidence, and you have the confidence. You said you want to be player of the year, so Golden Spikes might not be out of the question.
I mean, you got a good point there. I mean, you can't like doubt yourself so much because I mean, at first I was like Big East freshman of the year, like that's crazy. Like I don't even know if I'll play, but I mean, that's what happened this year. You never know. I mean, things change, and I'm hoping for it, but I mean, you got a point there. You can't shut yourself down a little bit.
With that being said, what are you doing this offseason to set yourself up for your sophomore year?
So I was going to, like, obviously I failed my math class. So my coach wanted me to come home for the first half and focus on that. And 2 weeks home, as like 2 week mark, literally 14 days as I was home, I got my appendix taken out. So he's like, take the summer off. He goes, I would rather you be healthy than try to push it. And so like I'm starting to like finally just start swinging it because my coach is like, I don't want you hitting until 4th of July. And so like I went to the cage the other day, like slow swinging because I mean like the incision, like the main incision is right here, like where they cut it and stuff. So like when I swing, it's tight there, but when I swing lefty, it like doesn't hurt at all. So like I can tell like right here stretches a lot. And so he's like, just take it slow. Like I'm like itching to just hit, like have a normal day in the cage. Like I love golfing. I want to golf. I want to lift, but like I can't do legs. Like I can't do all that.
Dude, we got to golf together. I've been trying to get these guys to golf with me as well.
I'm telling you, man, this is it. Listen, instead of Coach RAC's camp, I say we have a Coach RAC scramble.
Oh, man. Count me in, dude.
We get all the people out there who are influencers, and we just have an absolute party and bring out people, have a little conference pregame, something to that extent.
I make things happen, Chris. I make things happen. You just wait.
I told Jesse the other day, we're going to go ahead and just pay for the flights. You guys are going to come in. We're going to do a little whiteboard.
Joey's probably going to scratch it off.
Oh, I golf lefty. I can't swing a righty.
That's funny. I bat lefty in baseball, but I golf righty.
I write left-handed. I eat left-handed. I do everything else right-handed. I always say because my dad didn't love me to show me how to hit left-handed or catch left-handed, but literally I do 2 things on my left hand, everything else right-handed. All sports right-handed.
Joey, this was great. Appreciate you hopping on. I think this is a really cool conversation. I'm excited for people to hear it. Only plug I'm going to put in is there's an episode every week. Make sure to check the show notes for resources on everything. Check out the stuff from HB Sports. We'll probably have some cool features in the show notes and stuff to check out. And then follow us on all our social platforms to check out clips. And Joey's socials and all of that stuff will be in the show notes as well. So you can go follow him and follow his journey.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Fences.